I think it was perfect because, just that opportunity to invite in the grace and the perfection and the trust is a good introduction to the year 2017 at our spiritual center. The context was that in January of 2017, Donald Trump was inaugurated as the president of our country. And there was a lot of turbulence in our society that was, had started before, obviously, but it was very much at the surface in 2017. And it was really interesting to go back through the bulletins and the reflections, the Interfaith Inspire, the newsletter, which had board minute summaries and events and things like that, and see how we were responding to all of that. 2017 is also the year that we made our huge transition from Dave Bell as our spiritual leader and founder, and we welcomed Lauren Tatarski as our next senior minister. And she started in June of that year and carried on through 2017. And as most of us know, she left in 2018 in a pretty dramatic way that was very disruptive and difficult. So I'm not going to go into that, but because that's for 2018. But some of the highlights of 2017. So our first speaker of that year was the Reverend Dr. Julie Nemetsek, who spoke on the embrace of the divine. And Reverend Dr. Julie is a trans woman, former Baptist minister for 20 years, who had, who transitioned and came to speak to us that January and really raise our consciousness about how to be welcoming and affirming to members of the LGBTQ community. Delith and Annie had attended a workshop for ministers the previous fall of 2016. And in February of, so Dr. Reverend Julie came in January and spoke to our community. And in February, we had the first of our monthly bulletins that had a pride flag printed on the back, and we were looking, we acquired a pride flag to hang in the window, and there were conversations about other ways that we could be welcoming and affirming. And that year the board worked on a statement to clarify that and to be really clear about our position on that. In February, Mary's Clark and Dave Bell both wrote reflections in the Interfaith Inspire about the Women's March that took place in January around Donald Trump's inauguration. And there was also a service here in January on the day of the Ann Arbor of the Women's March, which we had an Ann Arbor Women's March too. And there was another service here that day for people who couldn't march, and it was Norma Gentili and Barbara Brodsky and Haju, and the kind of holding a meditative space for that. So March was a really big month. That was the month that the Ministerial Search Committee introduced, and the board introduced our two finalists for the senior minister position to the community. And so the first 2 weekends in March, they were the featured speakers on Sunday, and they also gave a workshop, each of them in succession, on Saturday, followed by a potluck so that the community could really get to know them. So we had Claudia Robley, who was an interfaith minister living up in, I want to say Brighton. And she gave a talk on spiritually responding to today's political climate. That was her workshop, and her talk was A New Age, the Rise of the Divine Feminine. And by the way, also the Me Too movement was happening. So there was so much in the culture. Lauren, the next week, gave a workshop on sharing spiritual experience, connecting to divinity inside and out. And she gave a talk on waking up to life, the journey toward inner knowing and our divine purpose. And we sent out a survey and online for people to vote right away. And there had been a whole lot of prep, and I won't go into, there were like meetings in February after the service to talk to the community about like how the community would participate in voting and all of these things. I did print out also, for anyone who's interested, the documents that were created as part of that ministerial search, the job description and qualifications and the community profile that we had done a lot of internal work to really define roles at our community and make things as clear as they could be. And there is a statement that in the job description, and I really invite you guys to look at these if you're interested, but under direct supervisory responsibilities, the best language we could come up with, the senior minister is at the heart of what is a very egalitarian structure, with no direct supervisory responsibilities, but plays a vital role in anchoring the vision of the center. So we tried to bring someone into this very flat organization, and with a lot of intention, I will say. Just give you some highlights from the annual meeting in March, at which the board recommended that we hire Lauren. Jeff Alden made the motion that we hire her, and then the community voted. And there were in the newsletter quotes from the discussion that ensued. These are some of the things that people said. I have counted the people in attendance for years, and attendance has increased substantially, in part due to the interest about this very search process. Somebody else said, we have been hungry for growth, and until recently, we didn't have a coherent idea of how we wanted that to form. Somebody said, we are never, ever really going to lose Dave. He is always going to be a part of this group. I viewed Lauren from my laptop and was immediately drawn to her. I am excited for us to have our dreams, but to support hers as well. Thank you, Dave, for 20 years. There are enough of us who care about this place that it's not going to change to the point where we won't want to come. This is a big opportunity to do some strategic planning and visioning. I was surprised when my husband said it was awesome, which is rare for my husband. By this community supporting her by 90% with their votes, I am proud of the example we are setting. The energy when Lauren spoke was huge, and it continued in that vein. It reaffirmed my choice in being here. And so on. Then there was a time when apparently I said, I was a co-chair of that search committee and on the board that year, and invited people to, apparently I said, if you have something you want to talk about, you want to raise a concern but don't feel comfortable doing this now, please go ahead and share. We want to hear from you and make sure you have a chance to share and express what is in your hearts. And there were a few comments. One person said, I want to be open-minded, but I'm feeling anxiety about this. This community is more diverse than I am. I just want to admit that I do have anxiety and I have to come to grips with that, but that's okay. And I'm working through it in this community. Somebody said, it's not just Lauren's burden to speak and inspire us every week, and we all have stuff to share with each other and with her. I don't want that aspect of our community to be lost. And somebody said, we have to support the business that is interfaith, but it means we all have to participate with time, effort, money. We can't sit back and take advantage of it. Without that support, Lauren will have nothing to do because we would go out of business. So how am I doing for time, Delith?
You're about there.
Okay. Yeah, so we did ordain Lauren. She was not an ordained minister. She had a master's in spiritual counseling from a respected university. And there's a lot more, you know, it was a big year. We did have uncomfortable conversations about race facilitated by Robin Stevens in September. And there was an effort that and a structure that came out of that to continue those conversations. We made the big transition. And so it was a big year, undertaken with a lot of hopes and good intentions by all. And you'll have to stay tuned for next week for 2018. Okay, thank you. I'm just going to say one other quick thing. A lot of people had a lot of difficult feelings after Lauren left, including myself and Layla Ananda, who along with Christian Spielman had hosted some conversations to help our community heal the next year. Layla offered herself to be a sounding board to me and anyone on the ministerial search committee who needed to process. And I had one conversation with Layla, and all of my anger and resentment and heartbreak was really integrated. And so I spoke to Layla, and she said she's available to talk to anyone else too. So she's the best. Thank you.